Mic check. Mic check. Shalom, shalom. All right, calm the water. Shalom. I want to start off, of course, giving all honor and glory, infinite praise and worship to YAHWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, HAQADASH. Double honors to our apostles and our elders, a great millstone, who we will teach you on sound doctrine. Strong shalom to the hopeful elect and the rest of the large multitude, men, women, and children of the Lord have mercy on these last days. Brother Kadash coming back with another lesson through the spirit of power, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, Lord willing, is edifying. All right. Just going into some history and prophecy. I want to start, Lord willing, do a series on just a lot of history and different things of such. All right, this particular lesson today, we'll be going over Daniel 7. All right, Daniel chapter 7. And it is February 1st, 2022, 10:19 p.m. All right. We're going to just dive right into it. Lord willing, is edifying to a member of the Lord's elect. All right. So when you're dealing with history, it's a lot of things you got to go into and a lot of dots you have to connect. All right. And that's why the Lord has set up great men in our apostles and elders, a great millstone, who rule well to this very day, who are set up, you know what I'm saying, to guide us and to direct our steps through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, right? It's kind of cold on here. All right. All right, so this Daniel, I'm gonna be reading out the book, all right? And then like I'm gonna periodically I got some stuff I'm gonna show you, I'm showing here. All right. Now this is Daniel chapter 7. It's a lot here. All right, this is Daniel chapter 7 and verse 1. It says, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Okay. So Daniel had a dream, had a vision, a lot of visions. All right, this particular one had to deal when this particular one was dealing with when Belshazzar was the king of Babylon. Now Belshazzar was the last king to actually rule in Babylon. All right. He was the last king to rule in Babylon. All right. When you go to verse 2, it says, Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. All right. So it says, Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds. All right. So these four winds is two meanings here. All right. These four winds are dealing with the directions, the north, south, east, and west. And it's also dealing with four kingdoms. All right. Four kingdoms. All right. And matter of fact, when you go into this four winds, just to get a quick precept in Zechariah, this is Zechariah chapter 1. I'm gonna go straight to the point. Let's start at 18 because this Zechariah chapter 1 is dealing with I believe it's the same chapter. Yeah, this should be the same chapter with the I want to make sure real quick. Yeah, he was conversing with the angel. But we're gonna get straight into the 18. It says, then lift up Then lift I up my eyes and saw, and behold, four horns. All right. It says, and these four horns are the four empires. It says, and I said unto the angel that talked with me, what but these? He answered me, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. And the Lord showed me four carpenters. Then said I, what come these to do? And he spake, saying, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man dare lift up his head. But these are come to fray them, to cast out the horns of the Gentiles, which lift up their horn over the land of Judah, to scatter it. So these four horns are these four empires that's speaking about. And just a quick precept to grab to back that up, according to Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 7, verse 2. All right, so it says, Daniel spake and said, I saw I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds. All right, so that's the four kingdoms of the heaven strove upon the great sea. Now, this great sea is the Mediterranean Sea. All right, just matter of fact, I'm gonna drop that. Just a quick precept on that to show you that this great sea is the Mediterranean Sea. All right, so this is Numbers. It's like in the pages folded. Just a quick precept on that. Now, let me show you this here. All right, so this is a map. All right, of the Mediterranean, of the coast, the landmass that this is talking about in Numbers 34. It says, I'm gonna read the verse again. It says, I'm gonna just start at the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. So that great sea being the Mediterranean Sea, as you can see here. All right, it's Mediterranean Sea. Now it says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, command the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye come into the land of Canaan, this is the land that shall fall unto you for inheritance, even the land of Canaan, with the coast thereof. Then your south quarter shall be from the wilderness of Zin. Right now, this particular map don't give you all the locations, but it just pinpoint mainly like the locations that I wanted to show. So that's why I just stayed with this map. So it says from the wilderness of Zin along by the coast of Edom. All right, so here is Edom. All right, you see right here. It says, and your south border shall be the outmost coast of the salt sea eastward. Right. It says, and your border shall turn from the south to the accent of Akrabim and pass on to Zin, and the going forth thereof shall be from the south to Kadesh Barnea. This is to the south, which is right here, Kadesh Barnea. All right. It says, and shall go on to Hazar Hadar and pass on to Osman, and the border shall fetch a compass from Osman unto the river of Egypt. The river of Egypt, which is the Nile River. Now you see this river right here. Here it is right here. It says Kadesh Barnea, and then you had from the Aswan unto the river of Egypt. This the river of Egypt right here. And the goings out of it shall be at the sea. So the going out, as you can see here, the out part right here, the river where it says the word river of Egypt, because I don't know if it's showing my cursor. And then you see the body of water is going into the water. It says, and it shall be at the sea. It says, and as for the western border, you shall even have the great sea for a border. This shall be your west border. And that great sea is the Mediterranean Sea that is speaking about here in Daniel 7 and 2, just for edification. All right, so that great sea is the Mediterranean Sea. Just a quick precept. It's like it. Now it says, and like I mentioned, like it's four beasts. All right, because you got to remember, I mentioned that the last king of Babylon was Belshazzar, right? And um, when you're dealing with different dates, you had a guy named Nebuchadnezzar, all right, which like when you read in Daniel 5, all right, he Belshazzar was actually he actually ruled about 10 years after Nebuchadnezzar, all right? He ruled about 10 years after Nebuchadnezzar. But Nebuchadnezzar was an Assyrian, all right? He was an Assyrian. And it's crazy because one of the first beasts is actually you would call it the Assyrian Babylonian. All right, the Assyria slash Babylonian Empire. All right, because actually Nebuchadnezzar was an Assyrian. He wasn't a Cushite. All right, so it's a good thing that knowing that, because by Nebuchadnezzar being Assyrian, it makes sense, or not being a Cushite, of why they actually called what the first beast was the Assyrian slash Babylonian Empire. All right, and this kingdom and this reign was about like I said, I went to Daniel 5, but this reign was about from 911 to about 609 BC. All right, was the reign of the Assyrian Empire, and then you had just a little after that was from like 606 to like 536 BC. Okay, was the Babylonian reign. Okay, but it was considered the Syrian slash Babylonian Empire. All right, that's the first beast. The second beast would be who? Medo-Persian Empire. And the third beast would be the Greek Empire. And the fourth beast would be the Roman Empire. All right, so it says here in verse 3, um, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from another. Oh yeah, because also too around about 58, what was that? Around 586 BC was when the Babylonians led Israel into captivity. You know, so it's good to start getting into dates and lining things up according to secular history, so that they can make sense when you actually reading the scripture, so you can link it all up. You know, like the elders say, man, you got to know the history to know the mystery. Piece it all together like a puzzle. Verse 4, all right, it says, the first was like a lion and had eagle wings. And that's talking about the Assyrians, all right? Because matter of fact, I got a picture pulled up right here. Let me get this real quick. All right, so I got a picture pulled up for y'all. Because I'm gonna read it first. It says, the first was like a lion and had eagle wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. All right, so let's start back from the top. Daniel 7:4. The first was like a lion and had eagle wings. So this lion was the Syrian Empire, right? All right, so this is what this is talking about. It's called damn, how you say that? Lamasu, Lamasu, a Lamasu, right? On the front, you have an Assyrian face, but then you got the wings. Okay, all right, here it is on the body of a bull, right? Human-headed winged bull, Lamasu. Okay, now it says the first was like a lion and had eagle wings. All right, I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked. So who was the wings plucked by? Who are these wings plucked by? Right? Who the Assyrian Empire of fall to, or was conquered by? The Babylonians. Now, when you're dealing with the Babylonians, right? Because who actually who actually who actually took down the Assyrian Empire, and how did he do it? It wasn't no war. They had no war. Okay, it was done by Darius. Okay, and Darius, make the screen back to this. And Darius, all right, it was a surgical strike. Okay, because when you go into the book of that's why when you read Isaiah 13, it's not talking about ancient Babylon. All right, because ancient Babylon didn't go down by fire and different things like that. It was a surgical attack. It wasn't no war. Okay, it was strategic. Because when you go into the Daniel chapter 5, like I quoted some things, but I'm not gonna read it. But it was a feast going on. All right, it was a feast going on. And then when you go down to like verse 22, it says, and thou his son, O Belshazzar, had not humbled thine heart, though thou knewest all this. So when you jump down, because so Belshazzar, remember I said Belshazzar was the last king, and uh uh uh, Belshazzar was the last king in Babylon, right? He was the last king in Babylon. So then I don't want to jump. I don't want to jump the God, get excited. But Darius the Mede, Darius is the one who actually surgically took down the Babylonian Empire. Before I was jumping the gun, so if we go back, let's go to actually to the end of chapter 5. Before I show you that, let's go jump down to the end of chapter 5. Like, let's start at 29. It says, then come in Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet and put a chain of gold about his neck and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. And that night was Belshazzar the king of the Chaldees slain, and Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. So he was about 62. All right. So Darius the Mede was the one who actually, according to history, uh, when you go into the research of Darius the Mede, this was who they called how you say it, Astyages, Astyages. All right, that's who this is talking about. All right, because you have different instances throughout history where each kingdom will take on the same name. Like there were multiple Cyruses, there were multiple Ptolemies. Okay, there were multiple, Dariuses and so forth. All right, and it says when you jump down to chapter 6, it says it pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom. And this is where, I mean, that's a whole nother thing, but this is when you go into that, you can link this up with Daniel chapter 9 and 1. All right. And you can also link this up to just show you that this is talking about Darius the Medes. And you can also go to Isaiah 45 and 1, which we might end up getting, Lord willing, because I want to get Isaiah 44. Okay, because it's gonna make it all make sense too. And it says, I'm gonna read it again. Daniel 7 and 4. The first was like a lion and had eagle wings, the Assyrian Empire. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked. They were plucked by the Babylonians. And it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. Right. So this is the king of Babylon, right? It says, and behold, verse 5, and behold, another beast, a second like a bear. All right. So it says a second like a bear. All right. It says, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. All right, let's go back at the top. And behold, another beast, a second like to a bear. Right. So this beast here, this bear, is the Medo-Persian Empire. All right. It's the Medo-Persian Empire. All right. And it says, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs. Right. And the three ribs that this bear is representing, okay, which is the Medo-Persian Empire. The 3 ribs which would be Lydia, okay, Babylonia, all right, and Egypt, all right. It says, in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it, and they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh, because it was actually looked at as crazy to actually try to come up against it, the power that this kingdom had, man, because they were fierce, right? When you go to and Lord willing, we broke down Daniel 8. I kind of misspoke on like 2 areas, like so I'm gonna actually probably do that breakdown over. Because when I rewatched it, I was like, why did I say that? Sometimes you just say shit and you don't even realize you said it. But I'm gonna go back into it and break that down again. But this is just real quick. This is Daniel's 8. Jump it down to like verse 3. It says, then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns. Right. It's talking about the Medo-Persian Empire. 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high. Right. Talking about the Persians. The Persians came after the Medio or the Medes, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. It's talking about the Persian Empire, right? Because when the Persians merged, okay, the Persians was actually was high in status more so than the Medes. It says just like what happened with the Assyrian and the Syrian and the Babylonian concept. Even though the Assyrians was mighty in war, right? They were mighty. They were real mighty in war, right? And that's also like dealing with America. Another name for America is Assyria. They learned a lot of their war tactics from the Assyrians. Okay, like the elders mentioned, like dealing with Isaiah when he prophesied naked. All right, dealing how the Assyrians made us go into captivity butt naked, man. Okay, that's where Esau he was got a lot of these concepts from and his war tactics and different stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Because Isaiah prophesied almost was like 180 to 200 so odd years or more than that, like 230, 250. I believe. I don't quote me on it, but it's around that time frame before the Assyrian Empire even took effect. Um, but it says, then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had two horns. The Medio Persian Empire, and two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. Right, and the Persians would be Elam, Iran, okay, which are the Iranians, okay. Matter of fact, you can Google it. They the Iranians, okay, they changed their name about around. I'm not gonna get it, but y'all can Google it. The Iranians changed their name from Persia around like 1935. Okay, it's also something called the Persian Gulf. Okay, right, you know where they land, where they dwell. All right, but they changed their name from being from Persia to Iran around 1935. It says and it says Daniel 8:4. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. Now this is talking about Cyrus, right? Okay, this is talking about Cyrus, and this is uh, um, and what he did was he overtook the Babylonians, the Syrians, and Egypt, etc. Okay, Cyrus became great, hence the name Cyrus the Great. All right, but what did Cyrus do? Cyrus is the one who set up. Cyrus is the one who set up Darius the Mede to go into and surgically attack. Okay, and to do what he do, he sent him on that mission. All right, he sent him to invade Belshazzar. All right, because uh King Cyrus was from the capital Parsa. Okay, Parsa, which is the capital of the Persian, which means which is the Persian land, which means city of Persians, city of the Persians. That's what Parsa means, and that was the capital, and that's where King Cyrus is from. But again, he sent Darius around like 540 BC, all right, to invade Belshazzar. Belshazzar and them was having a feast and shit. They was drunk, you know, and he came in and surgically attacked them and took over, man. Hence, like I said, Belshazzar was the last king of the Babylonian Empire. Now, when you go to let's go back, and I'm gonna go to precept real quick, and because we was in Daniel 7:5. Matter of fact, I just grab it now. I want to get that quick precept in Isaiah. I quoted it, might as well get it in Isaiah 40, in Isaiah 44:28. All right, so this is I'm gonna read Daniel 7:5 again. It says, "And behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, which is the Median Persian Empire, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had three ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh." All right. So, real quick, just to show, because what happened was the YAHWASHI actually anointed a specific heathen king to do what he was going to do so that Israel could build Jerusalem, which was who? Cyrus, right? Now, this is Isaiah 44:28. It says, "That said of Cyrus, he is my shepherd and shall perform all my pleasure, even saying to Jerusalem, thou shalt be built into the temple, thy foundation shall be laid. All right. Now, when you go to Second Chronicles, you go to Second Chronicles 36 and 22. It says, now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord spoken by the mouth of Jerusalem or Jeremiah Slakia might be accomplished. The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom and put it also in writing, saying, thus said Cyrus, the king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth have the Lord Most High of heaven given me, and he have charged me to build him an house in Jerusalem, which is true, which is in Judah, who is there among you of all his people. YAHWASHI, his power be with him, and let him go up. Right. And you can read this same thing in Ezra chapter 6. Just real quick, just getting a couple of precepts on that for the edification. Ezra chapter 6 and 1. Then Darius the king made a decree, and search was made in the house of the rolls where the treasures were laid up in Babylon. And there was found at Akmatha in the palace that is in the province of the Medes, and a roll, and therein was a record thus written. In the first year of Cyrus the king, the same Cyrus the king made a decree concerning the house of the Most High at Jerusalem. That's why, like I said, it's many. There were many different. There were many Cyruses and Dariuses and different stuff, and different kingdoms had their titles for different, Cyrus the 1, 2, you know what I'm saying? So here, that's why it says the same Cyrus the king made a decree, because it was the same one that we read about in Isaiah 44 and 28. It says, made a decree concerning the house of God at Jerusalem. Let the house be builded, the place wherein they offer sacrifices, and let the foundation thereof be strongly laid, because he was anointed, in the sense of meaning the Lord placed it on him to allow us to do these things. It says the height thereof 30 cubits, and he got real specific, in the breadth thereof 30 cubits. All right, and now when we go back actually to Isaiah 40, we read Isaiah 44 and 28, because what was going on in the times of Zerubbabel and in the book of Ezra and so forth, you had it where the heathens were they disrupted us building the temple, and they was like, let us build with you, let us serve your God as you do, and so forth, right? Ezra 4 in different places, but so they disrupted the building process. So that's what we read. Also, who continued this was actually Darius. Okay, Darius actually continued the build of the of Jerusalem after Cyrus. Okay, but I do want to get this quick precept in Isaiah 45. All right, this is Isaiah 45 and 1. It says, "Thus said the Lord, power, YAHWASHI, to his anointed." Right, that's why I'm saying that, because the Most High actually chose. He was actually chosen by the Most High for us to build Jerusalem. And this is Cyrus the second right here. All right. So you can understand. To Cyrus, whose right hand I have beholden, to subdue nations before him, and I will loose the loins of kings, to open before him the two-leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut. So you got to remember that I was gonna say the Medo-Persian Empire was the first to take over the realm of the Medes, right? So you had different things going on in during this time. You had little things happening, big things happening, but you got to remember the kings were out. What they was doing was they was actually paying tribute to the Persian Empire, right? Because why? The kings were subject to Cyrus, right? Because the Most High had chose him to allow Israel to continue to build the temple, right? And it's a word that Apostle Ramah got me hip to, which is co-regent. All right, I don't know if I had it pulled up or not, but you go into that word co-regent, Okay, which is, we could just put it up for edification. Co-regent. All right, put it on the screen. All right, co-regent, right? It means joint ruler, right? Joint ruler, right? So that's why it says again, it says to subdue nations before him, and I will loose the loins of kings to open before him the two lead gates, and the gates shall not be shut. And that's why it says the two lead gates, because it was a co-regent. Okay, it was a joint rulership in a sense, right? But Cyrus the second was actually spearheading this. And then once the heathens came in, like I said, they disrupted our build. Darius actually continued to build, allowed us to build the temple. All right. So when you go back to all right, when you go back to Daniel 7 and 5 again, and behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, which is the Medo Persian Empire again, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had three ribs, which is Lydia, Babylon, and Egypt, uh, in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh, right? Because they was in great power, they was in great authority. Um, it says, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, right? Another like a leopard, which are the, I'm gonna read it and then break it down. Another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it four wings of a fowl, and the beast, it says the beast had also four heads, and dominion was given to it. Right. So it says, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard. Right. This leopard is the Greeks, right? Dealing with Alexander. All right. Alexander, what he would do was, I said we could pull it up. What he would do was he would wear a leopard helmet. Alexander, great. Let's see, I can put leopard. Right. He would wear, like, and the leopard also stood for him being swift, because what Alexander did was he conquered the known world at the time in only 12 years, man. Right. So he wore a leopard print on his helmet. You know, he wore a cheetah. He wore a cheetah print. You see, because meaning that he did it quickly, right? He did it quickly. Um, um, and what's crazy about it though? What's crazy about it is that in that 12 year span, he went from um Macedonia to the coast, or the border of Asia Minor, going, or really from Macedonia to the border of India. Okay, and that's in 12 years. Like, it was a swift conquering. All right. So that's to show that. And it says, matter of fact, we can keep it on that. It says, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which is the Greeks Alexander, which had upon the back of it four wings. And it's in the four wings, it was more generals he had, but it was four main generals that the Bible actually highlights, which were the four generals, which is Ptolemy, Seleucus, Cassandra, and Lysimachus, right? Of a fowl, the beast had also four heads, and dominion was given to it, right? So when you're dealing with this history, right, let's go into it a little bit. Let me go to First Maccabees real quick. First Maccabees 1, it says, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, right? Chittim today is known as Italy, all right, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, right? So you could read this history. Matter of fact, let's get it real quick. In Daniel 8, you can read this history, because Alexander is the one who took down Darius, and now what Darius is talking about, Darius the third. All right. He actually took this kingdom down. But let's go to, I'm gonna start at like verse 5, and then I'm gonna jump down to 20. Daniel 8 and 5. And as I was considering, behold, an he goat, which is Alexander the Freak, came from the west on the face of the whole earth, right, coming from Greece, and touched not the ground because he was exalted. He was at a high state. Okay, his feet touched not the ground when he was in his rulership. It says, and touched not the ground, right, because he was around 20 years of age, right. So if he ruled for 12 years, he died when he was around 32, roughly 33. All right, and it says, touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes, right, which is the first king, which is Alexander. All right, and he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power, and I saw him come close unto the ram, which is the Median Persians empire, and he was moved with choler, which is like bitter. He was moved with hate against him, and smote the ram and brake his two horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Right. And this is again Darius the third. He lost to Alexander around 336 BC to about like 330 BC. Now we jump down to 20. It says, the ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media Persia, and the rough goat which is Philip is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king, which is Alexander. Right? That's what we're reading here in First Maccabees 1. So it says, now in Daniel 8 and 22, and now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, for a kingdom shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. In the latter time of their kingdom, the Greek kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding, dark sentences shall stand up, which is Antiochus the fourth. So if we go back, uh, which you can keep reading down to 25, but I'm gonna just come back to First Maccabees 1, and it says again, First Maccabees 1 and 1, and it happened after that Alexander the son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chidon, which is Italy today, had smitten Darius king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. That's what we just read it in Daniel 8 and 20. All right. It says, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And that's what we read in Daniel 8 and 5. He was exalted because why? He took all the kingdoms, and he was moving with great wrath. Okay, the earth was silent before him. That's where you get the leader, the leopard print from, because he was moving with swiftness. He was swift. All right, if you jump down, um, we just keep reading. He gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these things, he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up before him, up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. Right. So he reigned 12 years and died. Right. Because what you got to realize too is that what out of this, you had two prominent empires. These two prominent empires was always fighting and shit, man. They were always warring against each other, right? Which is the Ptolemaic Empire and the Seleucid Empire, right? Which the Ptolemaic Empire actually was ruling over the land of Egypt, and you had the Seleucid Empire that was ruling over the land of Syria. Okay, and they were constantly warring at each other, always at war. All right, and it says and after his and his servants bare rule every one in his place, and after his death they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplying in the earth. Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Okay, this is the start of his rent, like his empire, like flourishing to, and the start of the Hellenistic period, right? Hellenist. I think I got that pulled up. When you go into Hellenistic culture, right? It says, what is Hellenism and why is it important? The period of Hellenistic influence, when taken as a whole, constitutes one of the most creative periods in the history of religions, you see? And that's where you get this whitewashing and this whole concept of being uncircumcised in the mind, and its fullness comes from, as it says later in this chapter. There was a time of spiritual revolution in the Greek and Roman empires, you see, when old cults died or were fundamentally transformed, and when new religions movements came into being. You see that? And that's what this whole Hellenistic period was about. Okay, they Hellenized us, man. All right, took us, completely stripped us from what we knew was ourselves, man, or tried to, which was the start of, I should say. All right, and it says, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. All right, so when you see these things, right. All right, so let's go back to this real quick. This is Daniel 7:6 again. After this, I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which is the Greeks, Alexander, which had upon the back of it 4 generals, Ptolemy, Seleucus, Cassandra, Lysimachus, of a fowl, and the beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. Right, which is when you go to Revelations 13 real quick, 13:2. It says, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, dealing with Alexander. His feet were like, and his feet were as the feet of a bear. Now these are in this context, these are the Russians. And his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And this lion, and that is talking about right here, the mouth of that lion was actually Great Britain. All right, which Great Britain is where America comes out of. All right. And it says, going back to Daniel 7 and 6, and 7, Slakia. It says, after this I saw it in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, Slakia, a fourth beast, which is Rome. All right, which is why when you go back to Revelation 13:3, it says, and I saw one of his heads, uh, as it were wounded to death. All right, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Right, and Rome, what's the guy name? Septimius Severus, I believe. Um, Rome was wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. Right, so when you go back to Daniel 7:7, it says, and I saw the night vision, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong. Right, same thing you're going to in Daniel chapter 2. Right, dreadful and terrible and strong, exceedingly. Right. Now this is during the time of 331 BC or to about 146 BC or so. It says, and it had great iron teeth, right, representing his military. All right, because also this is how you know another identity. How you say that? Another key indicator that America also is called Assyria, because they built with a lot of iron as well. They built iron. Um, um, damn, they was building iron weapons and stuff. Um, and it says, I believe that's right. It says, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. Right. So, and it had 10 horns. Right. So it says, so how was this beast this Roman Empire diverse from all the other beasts is because which Rome is the fourth beast, and like I said earlier, and it was diverse from all the other beasts because the other beasts had they were the successors came from the bloodline, the son and so forth. But the Roman Empire changed it, and they started to have senate houses, right? Matter of fact, we can get that in First Maccabees chapter 8, real quick. First Maccabees chapter 8 and 1. Now Judas had heard of the fame of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as were loving, except all that joined themselves unto them, and make a league of enmity with all that came unto them. Right? They was making leagues with different people. You jump down to 13, it says, you really can start at 12. Let's just start at 13. Also, that whom they will help to a kingdom, like you, those reign, and whom again they displace. Finally, that they were greatly exalted. Yet for all this, none of them wore a crown, or was clothed in purple to be magnified thereby. Right, because they wasn't a monarchy. Right, they was this system that they wasn't a monarchy. All right. It says, moreover, how and yeah, I mean, probably could put it up. Monarchy for edification's sake. A form of government with a monarch that at the head, right? The monarch and the royal family of a country, right? So they wasn't a monarchy. They had a senate house. They was for the people. They had the people vote. It says, moreover, how they had made for themselves a senate house. You see, wherein 320 men sat in council daily, consulting a way for the people to the end they might be well ordered. Now, you have something called the CPQR, which is I actually had that pulled up. I just realized the SPQR, right? Which means the Senators Populus Senators Populus K Romanus, Senators Populus K Romanus, which means what? Which means the Senate and Roman people, which means the Senate and Roman people. All right. Um, and that's what this term comes from, the SPQR, the Senators Populus K Romanus, right, which is the Senate and Roman people. And it says, and they commit, verse 16, and they committed their government to one man every year who ruled over all their country, and that all were obedient to that one, and that there was neither envy nor emulation amongst them. Right. So this is how they were diverse from all the other beasts that was before them. All right. And like dealing with the 10 horns, you can go to Revelation 13, back to Revelation 13, um, Revelation 17, um, which is I'll get it real quick so Revelation 13 and 1, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Right? The seven heads would be the Greeks, Romans, Spanish, French, the Germanian Major, Germanian Minor, and the British. All right, and the 10 you had about the 10 horns during the time of Rome, which you have. I think I had that pulled up too, which is something called a vassal state. All right, a vassal state. All right, a vassal state with varying degrees of independence in its internal affairs, but dominated by another state in its foreign affairs, and potentially wholly subject to the dominant state. Right. So a vassal state were other smaller kingdoms within the larger kingdom, in a sense. And these 10 horns and these vassal states during the time of the Romans were the Vandals, had the how you say their name, the Vandals, you had the Lombards, you had the Anglo Saxons, you had Almani, the Franks, the Visigoths, the Swabi, I believe that's how you say it, the Burgundians, Ostrogoths, right? I believe that's 10. Right? These were the 10 horns during the time of the Roman Empire, right? Which the EU now it's like 28 nations, 29 nations. And then so the 10 horns today, right? How you can recognize them today will be Greece, Ireland, um, uh, the French, hold on, Greece, Greece, Portugal, the Spanish, the French, Italy, you got what's that? Denmark, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, and damn, I forgot the last one. It's something with a bird. I forgot that word. It's a word long word. But those are the 10 that that are known today. The 10 horns, which makes up about 28 to 29 nations now today. All right. So going back to Daniel 7 and 8, it says, let me get this precept real quick. I'm gonna read Daniel 7 and 8 real quick. It says, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, which is America, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. Right? The um three horns that were plucked up by the roots. Damn, dropped it. Oh, okay, I caught that. Now it says 3 horns that were plucked up by the root. Now this was the French, the British, and the Spanish. All right, which you have here, what I have put up in history, which is the Revolutionary War. All right, it says the Revolutionary War, right, around 1775, right, and this is actually when they came up with that seal that's on the back of the dollar bill. Oh, I got a dollar bill right here. Let's see. I thought they had it on it. But yeah, it's called the seal. I think I had that pulled up too. The seal of the United States. The Great Seal of the United States. Yeah. 7075, 7082. Right? And that's the history. See, it says here 1775 through 80 through 83, 82. Right? Same thing. Right? And this is actually where you get the 13 colonies from. All right. Then you see there, Great Britain's 13, which is where the 13 colony concept comes from. And it was a war. It's called the Revolutionary War, right? Which America, okay, which America, like it says in Daniel 7 and 8, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, which is America, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up. And these are the 3 horns, which are the French, British, and the Spanish. All right. And it says, and behold, this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and the mouth speaking great things. Right. And that's what they do, like Isaiah 14 and 12, many other scriptures, right? Like I had Revelation 17 and 10, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and one is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, you must continue a short space. And this is talking about America, right? In the 5, it says 7 kings, 5 are fallen. The 5 that were fallen were the Greeks, Espanol, right? Spanish, Germanian Major, Germanian Minor, and the French, right? These are the 5 that fell. And it says 11, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition, right? And it is, which is America, right? That's why I said, and he is of the 7. It says, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the seven because America come out of Great Britain, or slash England, right? Uh, which is where America stems out of, which is that little horn in verse 8. All right, and it says, um, let me go back here real quick. It said, in his mouth speaking great things. When you go to Revelations, what's that, 5? Yeah, 5 and what's that, 5 and 11, and you got Revelations 13 and 6, and he opened his mouth and blasphemy against the power, against his power, against Yahawah, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. You see, so that's him speaking great things. All right. One example of him speaking great things. Verse 9, now I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the ancient of days did sit. Right. Same thing you read in verse well, right here with the ancient of days, Job 36. Then when you can't measure the days of the Lord. You can't measure how long the Lord existed. The ancient of days did sit, because it's talking about the Father Yahawah, and whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Right, chariot. It says, the fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him, and before him the judgment was set, and the books were open. Right. I beheld then because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed, even and given to the burning flame, which is talking about America. All right. It's not talking about uh, ancient Babylon. This is talking about America. All right. And it says, I beheld even to the beast was slain, NATO and the EU, right? When you go to Second Maccabees, 13 and 14. Now when this man was dead also, they tormented him and mangled the fourth in like manner. So when he was ready to die, he said, thus it is good, being put to death by men, to look for hope from the Most High, to be raised up again by him. As for thee, thou shalt have no resurrection to life. So the Edomites is going to be burnt with fire, burnt with flames, and they're not going to have, same thing you read in Revelations 20. They're not going to exist again, man. Revelation 19. Let's get there real quick. Revelations 19, right? Right. Revelations 19 and 20. It says, and the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. Right. Same thing. Oh, gotta get the one in Isaiah 14. It's Isaiah chapter 14 and 18. It says, all the kings of the nations, even all of them lie in glory, every one in his own house. Right? Because that's why it says here, as concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season of time, because the nations will give tribute. They would be tributaries. All right. And this is talking about the rest of the nations. All right. The rest of the beasts are the rest of the nations. All right. And that's why it says here, Isaiah 14 and 18, all the kings of the nations, even all of them lie in glory, every one in his own house, because they're going to be put back in their own lands. All right. It says, let's see what it says about Edom though. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain thrust through with a sword that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden under feet. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land and slain thy people. The seed of evildoers shall never be renowned. Prepare slaughter. You see, read that again. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land and slain thy people. The seed of evildoers shall never be renowned, man. They would never come back into power. That's why I'm about to read the next verse. It says, prepare slaughter for his children, man. And it goes into it. All right, because so they do not rise and possess the world with cities. And that's what that was going into in Isaiah 14 and 18. All right, it says 13, Daniel 7 and 13. And I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with clouds of heaven and came to the Ancient of Days, which is the Father, and they brought him near before him. Right, the Son of Man is YAHWASHI. And there was given him dominion and glory and the kingdom, that all people, nations, and language shall serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away. It says, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed, which was the kingdom of Israel, which is the kingdom of heaven. All right, I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me know the interpretation of the things. These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out the earth, right? Again, which is the Syrian Babylonian Empire, which is Medo Persian Empire, which are the Greeks and the Romans. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever, right? Because the kingdom that's going to be set up in the future is never going to be destroyed again. Then I will know the truth of the fourth beast, you see, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, dealing with his military, and his nails of brass, which devoured, break in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. Right, and that's dealing with the end of this man's rulership. All right, at the end of his reign, dealing with that great bear, the feet. All right, which is going to be used to bring down his kingdom, which is Russia. It says, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, right? The other that came up, which is America, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows, which is America, right? I beheld, in the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them, right? This is talking about slavery, right? This is talking about slavery, right? Coming from Canada all the way down to South America and all the lands where the boat touched. It says, until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom, right? Because eventually the saints are going to take the kingdom. They tell you in Revelations that the Lord had on his head many crowns. Those crowns represent all the kingdoms, all the kings that rule today, and the Lord is going to devour all of them and put them under subjection. Thus he said that the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth. Now this fourth beast here is talking about America, because this is how you know we're not talking about Rome, because America is it said is that deadly wound was healed in Revelation 13. That's America. And America is the fourth beast in this context here, because it says it should devour the whole earth. Rome didn't devour the whole earth. Rome devoured the known world. Here it's talking about the whole earth. So this is America. America dominates the whole world. If you say America don't dominate the whole world, you're a liar, man. You know, you're a liar. I saw a video. This lady was talking about America's the ruling power, because it is. It's the capital. It's Basra. It's the capital of this man's society, of his system. It says, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of his kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. And another, it says, and others shall rise after them. right, which is America, right, which is America. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue three kings again, which are the French, the British, and the Spanish. It says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and that's what he did. That's why you have something called a leap year. Okay, you have something called New Year's in the middle of the winter. All right, he changed times and laws. Okay, different. I mean, you could go into a bunch of stuff that you in this kingdom that's contrary to life, which is the Bible. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times of dividing of times. That's 350 years, all right, of hardcore servitude, right? Leading up all the way until 1968, 1969, and 1970, when Abba Bivens came on the scene, all right? It says, but the judgment shall, and that's 350 years, that's, what's that, 16, let's just do it on here, 16, 19 or something like that. Uh, 1968 50, 16, 18, yeah. So 1968 minus 350 years is around 1618. Okay, which is around the same time that it was calculated uh of some of the first cargo slave ships over here uh from Europe to over here uh mainly, but over here in the Americas, man. uh But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take. This is Daniel 7:26. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and to destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. Right. Real quick, Psalms. Get that real quick. Psalms 46. Let's get a quick piece of. Psalms 46, 6. The heathen. Let me read. I don't think I read the whole thing. Daniel 7:27. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. Psalms 46 and 6. The heathen raged and the kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice, the earth melted. And like Apostle said, that's like a summary of everything, man. The heathen raged, the kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice, and the earth was melted, right? And that's what's going to happen. The earth was his rulership is going to melt, and he's going to be subject underneath the princes and the priests of YAHAWASHI, starting with YAHAWASHI and the elect and the rest of Israel. It says, hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations much troubled me. My countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart. So Lord willing is edifying. It's obviously way more we can go into history wise, but you have to go into it yourself. And if you want to get extra details, you can. This was just touching like key points in the scriptures of who's who, what, who ruled here, certain different dates and different things and such. You know. Yeah, man. Lord willing, us edify. I want to give all honor, glory again, infinite praise and worship to Yahawah, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, HAQADASH. That by honor to our apostles and our elders, who will teach you on sound doctrine. Shalom, shalom to the hopeful elect. And the rest of the large multitude of men and children of the Lord have mercy on these last days. Brother Chadash, shalom.